guys, it's Rebecca here again, and today we need to talk. Since the beginning of me making this YouTube channel, I had been planning on doing a waxed carved jewelry launch as my first transition from wire wrapped or beaded goods. I'd taken a lot of time making some waxes, and I've been waiting to get them casted. The jewelry store at which I have been casting all of my items through, their machines are down, and so they themselves have been outsourcing to different places, and until their machines get back up and running, I'm not going to be able to cast. With that being said, as you guys might have seen a couple videos previous, I had gotten a silversmithing kit in the mail. Since I got that package, I kind of been putting off working on it because I've just been continuing to work on waxes. But at this point, it's gotten to the point where I really can't wait any longer. The last time I dropped something off was in November, and it's now the end of April. I don't want to put all my faith in a waxed carved launch first, because if I'm unable to cast my items for months at a time, I'm not gonna sell something, have someone buy that thing, and then have them wait like 5 or 6 months to get it. That just does not sit right with me at all, and I do not want to do that to anyone. So because of that, either A, I will be saving up and getting my own wax casting system, whether it's sand casting or like a legit wax casting machine setup, everything like that, or B, the jewelry store ends up getting their casting machines fixed in a good amount of time. I have been working on silversmithing. I've kind of just been taking all of my time. I've stopped working on wax designs and put them aside for now, and I've been putting all of my time into silversmithing. I in fact made this chain, and the heart pendant on it is a wire wrapped pendant that I absolutely adore. It's one of my favorites that I've made. And there's a little cross on it, if you can see. So this was my first practice project, and oh my gosh, what an amazing practice project. I burned myself so many times, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, from this project. It was definitely worth it though. I definitely learned a lot doing this. My chain practice project has taught me so much, so very much. I've made some rings since then, and I made some ball studs. I'll do a close-up of them because I doubt you can see them from here, but I really love the things that I'm making right now. I really need to go in on each individual link and use my file and just really clean them each up, but that's gonna take a lot more time that I don't wanna spend. I know this doesn't look that great. It's honestly kind of trash. But again, it was a practice project, and that's what they're for. It's obviously wearable, or I would not be wearing it. Duh. But at this point, I have been putting all of my time and all of my energy into silversmithing. I just got a package in of some items that I got to make some bezel stone silversmith items, and I'm really excited to get into that. For now, I did just want to do a little video of me making some easy beginner silversmith items that if you yourself is a beginner in silversmithing, you can follow along with me. And if not, you can just judge my process, I guess. So because I've been putting so much time and effort into silversmithing, I will be doing some silversmith items as my first launch, just because I don't want to wait any longer. I can't wait any longer. I want to sell my jewelry. I want people to be wearing my jewelry. I need to get it out there. In this video, I'll be showing you guys some projects that you can work on as a beginner by a beginner. Right now, I'm pretty much going through my wire. I'm getting everything to the size that I need it to be. One thing I definitely recommend as a jeweler is you need to document in some way how you made an item. There has been countless times where I have had to go to my TikToks or my Instagram and like scroll forever to find how I made an item and the size of wire I used and the length of the wire I used. Since then, I've tried documenting on pen and paper. I tried documenting in my sketchbook when I make a sketch, and if I make that item, I try to document the exact gauge and the exact gauge, size, amount of wire, or whatever is needed. I try to write down everything that I used and how I did it, so that if it ever comes down to I forget how to make it, I can always come back. I can always come back to it and find out. So I'm gonna go in and right where I did my heart drawing. So it's 20 gauge heart, 20 gauge square wire heart, 16 gauge round band, hammer heart. So yeah, right now I'm pretty much just getting all the components together and ready for me to get this ish on the road. So I have all of my components ready. I'm making 2 gold filled rings, 1 sterling silver ring, and 1 heart ring. And I just wanted to show you the components I made. I have to file down the edges of each ring, make sure they sit flush together, and I need to hammer this heart. So the heart ring I have, the heart is textured. I hammered it so it would give it a nice pretty little shine. So we're gonna go ahead and do that to this. Oh, actually, no we're not. I'm not gonna hammer it yet. I have to solder it first. I'm jumping the gun here. Okay. Oh my gosh, I have to show you guys. So I've been making these like little balls, these little melted balls, right? And I did make this like random looking heart thing, I guess. I was just kind of messing around, right? So as you guys can see, this like weird looking, you know, this weird looking thing. So this is like multiple random scrap pieces of wire and whatnot. I wasn't using this charcoal block. First. I was just using this ceramic board. And look at what it did to my desk. It literally burned a spot in my desk. And you can even see where too. This spot right here was where that spot is underneath my desk. Anyways, I thought I'd show you guys that because that's a little funny little, I don't know. I guess it's funny if you think that's funny. So right now I gotta cut a little chip of my solder. Again, this is easy solder, extra easy solder. So mine came in in wire form, so I have to cut off little chips. And what I like to do is take my spray. This is my spray flux. I spray the piece down. Perfecto. This tip right here is where it's hottest. So even though the flame comes like all the way out here, you're gonna wanna hit your piece wherever you're trying to solder with this blue tip flame right here. So right now I'm kind of just heating up the solder so it turns into a little ball. I have it on my solder pick right now, and I go in, heat up both sides of the joint so that it'll flow really easily. And I lay my solder pick and solder right next to the joint, and perfect. It just melted beautifully. You can kind of see how the solder kind of still is in a little bit of a ball form on top, and it didn't run all the way through to the back seam. So I'm gonna go back in with my torch and let it melt a little bit longer. And again, you hit it with the blue tip of that flame, get that heat really, really hot. Get it really hot. Oh, and it just melted perfectly too. Ooh, looks good. All right, let's check it. All right, I don't think you guys can see from here, but it definitely hit both sides and it melted really easily and really well, and it hit flush. And what I like to do is do a little bang test. Grab it really firm with my tweezers and I hit it against, and it worked pretty good. Yeah, all good. All right, so now I'm gonna hammer this bad boy. So I am gonna go in with my file and kind of file down that spot where the solder was. If we hammer on the texture before we file, and then we have to go in with the file, we're literally just gonna take away all the texturing that we did and have to redo it again. And that's not gonna be very fun. Work smarter, not harder, you know? I'm gonna go in with my needle nose pliers and kind of go in and round out the heart edges, just because I'm not the biggest fan of how they look right now. They're not as round as I would like them to be. All right, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. You guys probably can't see from here the shine of it. This is the band that we're using for the heart ring, so I kind of just make sure it fits pretty good so far, right? On both sides. Fits pretty tightly, and then I go in with my file and I file the edges smooth so that it sits flush against each other, so the solder joint will solder perfectly. That is one thing I learned as a beginner. If you don't have the joints that you solder, if you don't have them sitting flush against each other, you will most definitely not come out with a good soldering job, and it'll most likely break. And there also has to be really good tension in between your joints, and I'll show you a great way of doing so in just a moment as well. So it looks like both sides are flush. So I'm gonna take my heart ring and sit it up against each other where I want the joints to sit. So you see how the heart is being held up with no solder or anything? You need that type of tension on your joints to keep them from breaking after you solder. So this tension is a perfect show that these joints are sitting perfectly, that these joints sit perfectly flush with each other, and that it will hold, and I don't have to worry about the components moving after I start soldering and using the flame. You always want to use your pick in the non-dominant hand. Yep, sturdy as a ever. Let me get these ends filed down and I can show you how to do the same with this simple ring. All right, so a great way to get a ring to sit flush, or some joints to sit flush, is you take it and you push it on either side, like so that when it sits together, they sit neat, tight, really, really tightly together, and it sits flush. I go in with my nylon pliers and kind of make sure that it really sits flush, on every visual aspect looks flush and neat. Take your solder. I have to cut mine. Take your solder. I like to put mine on the block so that I don't hurt myself while I do it. Make sure you spray your item with flux. Remember, no flux, no flow. Without flux, your solder will not flow and your joint will not be sealed shut. So I take my flame, turn it on. I heat up the solder. Pick it up with my pick. And I go in, heat up both sides of the joint. And I lay that solder right at the joint line. Make sure it's covering both sides. Fan it between the two sides and make sure that solder flows perfectly in between the seam. And I use my pick to make sure it gets to that seam point if it moves at all. All right, let's see. All right, it looks good. Now you quench it. Beautiful sound. So quenching is just putting your item in cold water so that it makes it hardened and also so that you can actually touch it. A great way I've found to test if your joint actually soldered fully is I take it on the mandrel and I just hammer it down to where it's all the way at the size that I need it to be. Because the tension that hammering it does, it pulls apart. And so if that solder joint is a good solder joint, it's not gonna pull apart. Which is exactly what happened here. It did not pull apart. It's at a good length, so that the exact size I wanted it to be at size 10. And it's a beautiful round. So I can't put gold fill in pickle. it will deteriorate the gold fill. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the heart ring and the simple band that we just made and put those in the pickle pot and let them sit while I make my gold fill rings. And a perfect show of what I was trying to avoid happened. As you can see, the join, it did not join. All of the solder stayed on one side and it didn't go into the seam. So we're gonna try that again. Because there's already solder on it, I'm not gonna use very much. I am just gonna angle it so that it does lay, so it does flow to the seam more than the side where the solder lays. All right. So I don't know if you guys could see that from the camera angle, but I did heat it up long enough so that it actually let the original solder that was there, I let it flow, as well as added a little bit more anyways. All right, so let's see how these look when they're hammered on into the correct place. Yeah, all good. Solder, the joint stayed perfectly shut. So because these are gold fill, again, I cannot put them in my pickle. So instead, what I like to use is a really fine grit steel wool. And that takes away all of the fire scale that happened, like the brown dark spots. That takes away all of the grody bits, and it leaves a super shiny part and leaves it really good and ready for polishing. I am gonna take one of these and hammer them because I feel like it would look really pretty hammered. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of beginner projects, tips, do's and don'ts by a beginner. If you guys are interested in seeing the progress I make in furthering my craft here, you can subscribe. And if you like this video, please leave a like or a comment down below. But yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I did just want to say, if you guys ever have any prayer requests or anything that's bothering you, if you leave a comment down below, I'm more than happy to pray for you. I hope you guys have a great day. God bless you. Love you. Bye. Mwah! Hammer. Where did I put it? Where did I put my hammer? What? Oh, I found it. Oh.